And so if you have heard of this term we're going to talk about tonight, it is this whole Great Reset. And it's actually on the mainstream media now. Mainstream media is talking about it. This is real. A couple of days ago, I thought this is absolutely nuts. There's no way this is true. But it looks like it is. And you know what? I'm pondering this, when I first heard about this. And I'm thinking, this is horrible. But then as I started to play things out in my head, I just got to a point where I'm not worried about it. I'm really not worried about it. I think that, there's a lot of fear out there, and fear plays well. It sells well. You can get big bucks selling fear, but I'm just not fearful about this. And I think that there are people out there who are just not giving America the benefit of the doubt. We have risen above things like this before, and it hurts sometimes, and there could be some hard times coming. But overall, I think that we're going to be okay. If you know where I stand theologically, on a theological base, I believe we're in the last days. I believe we're in the last days, and how that plays out, I don't know. We're just going to have to sit and watch the show. Someone mentioned in the chat getting popcorn. Running for popcorn and beer. I mean, if that's what you have to do, if that's how you have to look at it, that's how you have to look at it. So let me read you some of these news articles that I have been wanting to share. I've been reading about. We're going to go through this. Let me put this on the screen for you guys so you guys can see what I'm seeing over here at the Canadian Report. Now, this is like a link aggregator, kind of like Drudge. And a lot of you guys have seen this because a lot of you guys have been sending me this link, but I just need to read this. We need to read this. So this was leaked, supposedly info into Justin Trudeau, Crazy's 19 plan for 2021. All right, so let's read this. It says, "Dear Removed, I want to provide you some very important information. I'm a committee member within the Liberal Party of Canada. I sit within several committee groups, but the information I am providing is originating from the Strategic Planning Committee, which is steered by the PMO." Now, I'm going to read this fast because I have a lot to get through, and I want to get through all of it. And it's going to get really, really scary. Okay, but again, there's no reason to be scared, I don't think. I feel okay about this. I need to start off by saying that I'm not happy doing this, but I have to. As a Canadian, and more importantly, as a parent who wants a better future for not only my children, but for the other children as well. It's the whole, he's a liberal because he's all like, it takes a village, right? The other reason I am doing this is because roughly 30% of the committee members are not pleased with the direction this will take Canada, but our opinions have been ignored and they plan on moving forward toward their goals. They have also made it very clear that nothing will stop the planned outcomes. The roadmap and aim was set out by the PMO and is as follows. Phase 1, in secondary lockdown restrictions on a rolling basis, starting with major metropolitan areas first and expanding to outward. This is already happening right now, November 2020. New York is shutting down schools, they announced today. California is in their second lockdown. The other communities, states, metropolitan areas are going into their second lockdown now, November 2020. Rush the acquisition of or construction of isolation facilities across every province and territory expected by December 2020. Now, you might say, oh, this is just for Canada. Hold on to your hats. Daily new cases of COVID-19 will surge beyond capacity of testing, including increases in COVID-related deaths following the same growth curves expected by the end of November 2020. Complete and total secondary lockdown, much stricter than the first and second rolling phase restrictions, that was the one talked about up here, expected by the end of December 2020, that's next month, or early January 2021. Reform and expansion of the unemployment program to be transitioned into the Universal Basic Income Program expected by Q1 2021. That's when they start. That's when helicopter Ben Bernanke and all of his friends start getting, firing up the helicopters and dropping money over all of the population. See, this is not just the U.S. This is talking about Canada, but it's going to be for everywhere, guys, everywhere. Universal Basic Income is when everyone gets paid to do nothing. Everyone gets paid to do nothing. Projected COVID-19 mutation and or co-infection with secondary virus referred as COVID-21, leading to a third wave with much higher mortality rate and higher rate of infection expected by February 2021. We don't even know if this is going to happen, but they're already predicting it. And if you've seen the trailer for the movie, was it Songbird? Is that it? Songbird? Someone in the chat post that up. Go watch that trailer after this. Make a note, write it down. I think it's Songbird. Go watch that movie trailer coming out. I think it's December, right? Like next month. correct me if I'm wrong on that. I'm not in the chat right now, so I'm reading this. Daily new cases of COVID-21 hospitalizations and COVID-19 and COVID-21 related deaths will exceed medical care facilities. How do they know that? They just know it because they're planning it. Enhanced lockdown restrictions, referred to as third lockdown, will be implemented. Full travel restrictions will be imposed, including inter-province and intercity, expected quarter 2 2021. So full travel restrictions will be imposed, including inter-province and intercity. That's going to be a hard one to swallow. And see, they can do this in Canada. They can do this in Canada, and I'll tell you why they can't do it here. We'll go through that. It's just, hold on to your hats. It's going to get more fun. The ride's just going to get more interesting. Transitioning of individuals into the Universal Basic Income Program expected mid-quarter 2021. Projected supply chain breakdowns, inventory shortages, large economic instability expected quarter 2 2021. Deployment of military personnel into major metropolitan areas as well as major roadways to establish travel checkpoints, restrict travel and movement, provide logistical support to the area expected by Q3 2021. Now, there it all goes. Let's read this guy's synopsis. Along with that provided roadmap, the Strategic Planning Committee was asked to design an effective way of transitioning Canadians to meet an unprecedented economic endeavor, one that would change the face of Canada and forever alter the lives of Canadians. What we were told was that in order to offset what was essentially an economic collapse on an international scale, that the federal government was going to offer Canadians a total debt relief. This is how it works. The federal government will offer to eliminate all personal debts, mortgages, loans, credit cards, woohoo, which all funding will be provided to Canada by the IMF. That's the International Monetary Fund. If you have been paying attention to the International Monetary Fund lately, if you think this is crazy, they have called for a new Bretton Woods. This has been in the news. If you've been paying attention, you have seen this. They have been calling for a new Bretton Woods. They're probably doing it right now. This is where the whole reset is coming from, the International Monetary Fund. Okay, under what will become known as the World Debt Reset Program. In exchange for acceptance of this total debt forgiveness, what do we get behind door number 1, Johnny? The individual would forfeit ownership of any and all property and assets forever. The individual would also have to agree to partake in the COVID-19 and COVID-21 vaccination schedule, which would provide the individual with unrestricted travel and unrestricted living under a full lockdown through the use of Canada's Health Pass. And they will have something similar here. Committee members asked who would become the owner of the forfeited property and assets in that scenario and what would happen to lenders or financial institutions. We were simply told the World Debt Reset Program will handle all of the details. Several committee members also questioned what would happen to individuals if they refused to participate in the World Debt Reset Program or the Health Pass or the vaccination schedule. And the answer we got was very troubling. Essentially, we were told it was our duty to make sure we came up with a plan to ensure that would never happen. We were told it was in the individual's best interest to participate. When several committee members pushed relentlessly to get an answer, we were told that those who refused would first live under the lockdown restrictions indefinitely, and that over a short period of time, as more Canadians transitioned into the debt forgiveness program, the ones who refused to participate would be deemed a public safety risk and would be relocated into isolation facilities. Once in those facilities, they would be given 2 options: participate in debt forgiveness program and be released, or stay indefinitely in the isolation facility under the classification of a serious public health risk and have all their assets seized. So, as you can imagine, after hearing all of this turned into quite the heated discussion and escalated beyond anything I have ever witnessed before, in the end, it was implied by the PMO that the whole agenda will move forward no matter who agrees with it or not. That it won't just be Canada, but in fact, all nations will have similar roadmaps and agendas, that we will need to take advantage of the situations before us to promote change on a grander scale for the betterment of everyone. The members who were opposed and ones who brought up key issues that would arise from such a thing were completely ignored. Our opinions and concerns were ignored. We were simply told to just do it. All I know is that I don't like it, and I think it's going to place Canadians into a dark future. All right, so this was posted on the Canadian Report back in October 14th. It made its rounds. People were like, blah, blah. Okay, that's really scary, but come on. And then it started to pick up steam, and more and more people started coming out. And people started putting together the puzzle pieces with the IMF, what the IMF has been releasing, what they've been saying, and what has actually been going on. And everyone now, I mean, listen, most of America, people, if you're one of the 71 million people who voted for Trump, you know that this was not right. I mean, there is even if everything is on the up and up, the media has been totally insane about covering up and saying, "Don't look over here." They've been shadow banning people. They've been taking things down, you know, on Facebook and Twitter. So, I mean, it's just there's smoke there. There's lots of smoke. So, you know, there's a fire. So you have all that going on. And then you have, let's see, this right here. The Ling poll, the Great Reset is trending. Here's why. So I believe this is the James DeLing poll is the writer. The Great Reset is trending. Here's why. The Great Reset has been trending on Twitter. Once you're familiar with what it means for the future of our civilization, you'll understand why. Folks, this is Breitbart. Okay? Okay, this isn't some no-name fringe, you know, website. This is Breitbart. You know, this is a conservative website, and they really try to pride themselves on getting out the truth. And they're talking about the Great Reset. Put simply, it is the blueprint for a complete transformation of the world economy. There will be no money, no private property, no democracy. Instead, every key decision, what you do for a living, how much stuff you consume, whether you can take a vacation. Let me zoom in on this, folks, so you can see it. Take a vacation will be decided for you by a remote, unaccountable elite of experts. Oh, at least they're experts. I mean, you wouldn't want, you know, mere amateurs deciding your future for you, would you? I mean, as long as they're experts, I'm okay, you know. It sounds like a conspiracy theory and is often dismissed as such by people who imagine that they are being savvy and sophisticated. In fact, though, the people pushing for the Great Reset are perfectly open about their plan. Indeed, they can scarcely stop talking about it. One of these people is Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. There's a video of Trudeau talking about the Great Reset, which prompted the flurry of nervous interest on social media. Okay, so, all right, I'm pointing this out, and you can look through this article if you want to. It's on Breitbart. You can research. This is on Drudge, I think, no. This was linked over at the Liberty Daily website. I don't go to Drudge anymore. Drudge is a liberal stinkhole. So if you go to Liberty Daily, you can go here. I'm not going to roll down sometimes, because sometimes some of their ads I don't like their ads. I do have Brave. I'm using the Brave browser. Some of them aren't showing up. Oh, look at that. Isn't Brave wonderful? Folks, if you're not using Brave browser, use Brave browser. It gets rid of a lot of the ads. And some of the ads are just not appropriate. Sometimes in places that you go online. So it was linked here. Oh, there it is right there, right at the top. Here's why the Great Reset is trending. I get a lot of my links here, and so you should do the same. Anyway, I saw that. And I'm like, man, this is not fringe anymore. This is really going places. And I'm seeing it in a lot of other places too. So I'm just saying, why am I not worried? Because right when you read that, it's pretty scary. Let me go back to the camera. It's pretty scary. It sounds absolutely insane. Guys, Canada, you know, it's obvious the ballot box is no longer working. The ballot box is no longer working. And I don't want to sound like, you know, a lunatic, but the reality is our founders were such brilliant people that they put this other option. It's a last option, excuse me, and that is the cartridge box. If the ballot box fails to function, if the ballot box no longer works, we have this thing called the cartridge box. And that will work. I mean, especially if you keep it lubed and oiled and, you know, well-fed magazines, and preferably have a Russian variant that never jams. I'm just saying, we have that option. And in America, a lot of people forget because we haven't taught history in our schools for, you know, generations now. This country was founded when the British tried to take away the cartridge box from us. That was Concord. That was Concord Bridge. They came to take away the cartridge box. And Americans said no. And they let them have it. And they learned real quick that they weren't going to take away the cartridge box, and they tried for years after that to continue to try to take away the cartridge box. Guys, as someone who's been in the gun culture, who's someone who has been, you know, who has worked in the Missouri State Legislature and has helped people, brilliant people, write the gun laws in Missouri. We passed the Castle Doctrine in Missouri. We passed the Hunters Protection Act in Missouri. We passed concealed carry in Missouri. And so many other amazing, good, pro cartridge box laws that, I know the gun culture, and there are people who are itching for this. They're waiting for it. I mean, they're waiting for it. They're itching to go. They're itching for something like this. And it's kind of scary. It's really scary, actually. And the reality is most military and most police are on board. To be totally honest with you, they are. They see, because people who have this ability inside them to desire to be a hero, they come mostly from patriotic families. People who want to know, or who are taught by their parents what was right and wrong. Not always, not in all cases. I know there's some bad apples out there. I get it. But for the most part, people who are raised in good families, they have a desire to promote justice, and liberty. And that's the kind of people we have in law enforcement. There's good people there. There's good people in our military. And a lot of those people become veterans. And they become part of the gun culture. Most of the people I knew in the gun culture were veterans. Most of them. Or ex-military, ex-law enforcement, So I'm not worried, because we have this ability in this country to say no. And if it means having to forego the ballot box because it no longer works, we have the cartridge box. And I know that's an extreme thing to say, but that's where we're at right now. If they're going to come to your door and they're going to take away all assets, property, and haul you off to some institution or some camp, the cartridge box guaranteed is going to come out and speak loud and clear about what's happening. Now, if you're in Canada, if you're in Britain, if you're in Australia, if you're in some other country, you've already given that right up. I remember years ago, Australia and Britain and Canada, they gave up their rights to own firearms. South Africa too, sort of is in that basket, not totally. They still have firearms there, but it's limited very heavily. But some of these other countries, very restricted. You have no way of saying no. You have no alternative. If they come to your door to take you away, there is no ultimate recourse. Live free or die. Give me liberty or give me death. That's not a suggestion. That was I mean, there are people who really believe that still, who are in this country today. I don't know what the Great Reset's going to entail. I don't know. I mean, again, this sounds like this is all really happening. And I don't know what's the outcome of this election is going to be. But I can tell you one thing, sure as shooting, that this country will not stand by and will not allow. I mean, goodness gracious, how many firearms that were sold in America in the last year alone, in 2020? You can't find ammo on the shelves. You can't even find a load-bearing vest on the shelf anywhere. Good luck trying to find a rifle sling. I mean, it's like, this place is armed to the teeth. And you think you're going to have a bunch of people. You have another thing coming. You're about to get a lesson in Concord Bridge style. You're about to get a lesson. It's just not going to happen. There will be people who would rather give up their lives than have that be their final fate in this country. And they'll learn quick, fast, and in a hurry that it's not going to happen. Now, everyone knows, I think they've been on my channel for long enough, that the Bible, I hold the Bible very dear, and I study it and I read it all the time. It is the book that has changed my life. And I recommend everyone to read it, study it, and do what it says. Obey it. Read it and obey it. There is another book out there that made me woke after I got out of the military. Again, I'm part of the gun culture. During my time in helping a number of, I'm not going to do any name drops here, but some very well-known people in the state of Missouri who helped write the gun legislation. when I was doing volunteer lobbying for the Second Amendment. I was on the board of directors for the Missouri Sports Shooting Association, which was the NRA state affiliate. I was on that board of directors for 8 years. And so we helped write laws. We helped make sure that Second Amendment was protected in Missouri. I met a guy named John Ross, and that guy wrote a book that changed my life, just like the Bible. Bible more so, but what made me woke was his book, and it's called Unintended Consequences. Unintended Consequences. I've never mentioned that book's name. It sits on my shelf. I've never mentioned that book's name in any of my videos before, but I'm doing it tonight. If you have an opportunity to read that book, it's like 900 pages long, and it's a mix of fiction and nonfiction. Absolutely amazing book. Changed my life. There's not a gun show in this country I have never been to a gun show. I've gone to lots of gun shows. I have never been to a gun show where I didn't see that book for sale. Somewhere. There's always a publisher around at a gun show. They have lots of books and things like that. Someone always has that book for sale. Unintended Consequences by John Ross. Now, the cover's a little bit risque. Okay, you can look it up on Amazon. It was an Amazon bestseller for a while. It basically details how this will go, how the next Concord Bridge will go. And I believe it's true. Timothy McVeigh read this book when he was in prison, and he said that if I had read this book, I would have never done what I did. Pretty interesting. Maybe we should read it. That's how I think it'll go. And these people will get a lesson, quick, fast, and in a hurry, that this won't fly here in this country. It won't fly. It'll be devastating. Devastating. On both sides. Jefferson's quote about the tree of liberty, right? But it won't happen. Not in this country. I'm not worried. We live in interesting times, and it could get really hectic and hairy, and there could be a lot of pain that, we all have to go through. And I really do believe we are on the verge of economic collapse. They are getting ready to shower one thing's sure shooting. They're getting ready to shower our economy with easy cash. They're going to do the lockdowns. If Biden gets elected, they will do the lockdowns. And to fix that, to fix all these businesses that are going out of business and all of the hurt that's going to be caused by that, they were going to shower the population with stimulus. And once be a student of history, once you shower a population with stimulus, you cannot stop. It must continue. And so that's why they have the universal basic income. They can't stop it because you'll crash an economy if you stop it. Once you pump stimulus into it, if you stop it, guys, you're going to the grocery store, you're seeing all of the prices go up. It's not going to stop. It's going to get worse. We're looking to massive hyperinflation coming quick, fast, and in a hurry. It is very shortly coming. They're going to keep pumping and keep pumping and keep pumping. And it's going. If you look at the M2 money supply, you can Google M2 money supply. It's a hockey stick. The printing machines, in fact, they're going to turn the printing machines off here soon because they're just going to go to a digital dollar. The Federal Reserve is going to go to a digital dollar, or the IMF will go to a digital worldwide currency, and they're just going to start typing in the zeros at that point. They don't need to print anymore. Turn the printers off. They don't need it anymore. All they need is this, a keyboard. That's all they need. They don't need the printing machines anymore. They're just going to, how much money you want? Done. There you go. And massive hyperinflation. That'll kill way more people than any virus could ever think about doing. All right. There's my video tonight. I just wanted to come on and give this, just lay out what I think is happening. And I need you guys to tell me what's what. Okay? Tell me what's what. I see we got the stream. I got the chat going here. Even I have guns, don't know how to use them or clean them, but I have them in ammo and to arm someone who does. You know what? There's a really interesting story in that book, Unintended Consequences, and it's a true story because a lot of fiction and nonfiction mixed together with this, okay, in this book. And there's a story about a guy who's in a concentration camp, and he actually comes across a pistol. And he has never held it before, so he takes the time to study it and just figure out. He's never shot a gun before, never had any training, but you know what? He was able to use that gun for the case for liberty. A true story of a guy in a concentration camp. So listen, I know you want to get training. You want to go out and you find someone who can positively train you and show you how to use that firearm, shoot, move, and communicate with that firearm. But if you can't, and that's all you got, when the time comes, I think you'll do okay. Chances are, maybe. You know, it is what it is. It is what it is. But yeah, you should go get training. Let's see. I'm joining late. What do they mean by it's going to be a dark winter? Oh, you can just come back tomorrow. Come back. The video will be up. You can just come back tomorrow. Yeah, JFK tried to put silver certificates back. Guys, yeah, the economy is done. The economy's toast. And you know, and I like Bitcoin. I really like Bitcoin. Bitcoin, you can get it. Don't buy it through PayPal. Make sure you own it. Make sure you have the keys if you do own it. But you know what? If the government shows up at your door and says, we know you have Bitcoin, turn it over, or we're going to put you in a hole somewhere, you're going to give over your Bitcoin. And right now you have companies like Grayscale and some of these other companies that are hoarding Bitcoin. If someone in the federal government knocks on their door and says, hey, listen, you're all going to jail, all your families are going to jail unless you give us your Bitcoin, guess what they're going to do? They're going to give them the Bitcoin, and then the U.S. Government will tank it. They'll all drop it on the market. You know, they'll confiscate it, or throw anyone who uses it in jail. They can do that. I mean, they can do that. And I know it's hard to confiscate. I know it's hard to trace, but they can still do things. So I like the idea of cryptocurrency. I like the idea you can hide some of it, and maybe it will be this amazing thing. And I own some cryptocurrency. I do, but you know, they took away gold in the 1930s, and you can still go to prison if you're caught with certain coins from the 1930s. Don't think you can't. There are stories in the news, every once in a while. I miss Y2K. Yeah, I know. Weren't those in the good old days, Y2K? Did you really vote for Biden? Of course not. Good grief, people. Did you really? Who do you think the president will be? I don't know.
When you do a Google search, it will direct you away from anything that harms the pharmaceutical industry. It makes no sense. They're notoriously corrupt. This is a crisis much worse than the coronavirus crisis.
What are you saying that's so offensive where many of these social media platforms or even mainstream media wants to censor you from?
Anderson Cooper is sponsored by Pfizer. NBC Nightly News is sponsored by Merck. These companies are making $50 billion a year selling mandatory vaccines. It's a gold mine.
Who is holding them accountable?
You cannot make a vaccine safely. Zero consequence if they kill you or if they injure you for life.
Is that proven?
ADD, ADHD, speech delay, peanut allergies, autism rates, 1 in 22 boys debilitated for life. Is completely irresponsible.
What is your thoughts and opinions on Bill and Melinda Gates?
How can he continue to insist that African children get that shot when he knows it's probably killing millions of kids?
Where would you rank him as the most powerful man in the world?
He's the most powerful man in public health because he owns the WHO.
You don't sound like a Democrat.
5G is about surveillance and it's about data harvesting. You are unleashing the devil here.
Why is your data right and not their data?
They're bowing down and genuflecting to Anthony Fauci. You can't go to the beach. You can't go shop. Your kids can't go to school. You have to stay in your house. It's a provable lie.
What conclusion do you have with what happened both with your father and your uncle?
I spoke to Cubans who met Oswald and they made the conclusion that, yeah, it was a conspiracy.
30 seconds.
Did you ever think you would make it? I feel I'm so close I could taste sweet victory. I know this life meant for me. Yeah, why would you bet on Goliath when we got Bet David? Valuetainment, giving value.
Vioxx killed between 120,000 and 500,000 Americans in between 2002 and 2006. And it was a pill and Merck marketed it as a headache pill that Merck knew caused heart attacks. How did it know it? It knew it from its clinical data because it killed a lot of people during the clinical trials. And when we sued Merck, we got documents that were these flow charts from their bean counters that said, we are going to kill a certain number of people, but we will still make more money even if we have to pay damages to all the people we kill. So we should go ahead and do this. So, which is justifiably morally justifiable. If you tell the people, when you take this pill for your headache or your arthritis, it may kill you, then you're okay because you warned him. But Merck didn't warn him. It hid that fact. And most of the people who died, probably, if they knew this could have killed them from a heart attack, they probably would have taken an aspirin. And Merck didn't give them that choice. It lied to them. Well, doesn't it require a kind of cognitive dissonance to believe that the company that would kill 500,000 people to make a buck on Vioxx suddenly has found Jesus when it comes to vaccines, which, by the way, is the only place they can never get caught. Because in all of those other drugs that they got caught for, the way they got caught was that private attorneys, plaintiffs' attorneys, representing injured clients, sued the company Merck or Sanofi or Wyeth, whatever, Pfizer or whatever, and in the course of discovery came across documents that showed criminal behavior. They took those documents, they brought them down to the U.S. Attorney's Office, and they said to the U.S. Attorney, you need to prosecute this company for criminal acts. That's how they got busted. Well, that will never happen with vaccines because there are no lawsuits. There is no liability. They can do anything they want to you, and there are no consequences. And by the way, it's not only that there are no consequences, there are good consequences for them from injuring you. Because this explosion in chronic disease epidemics has made those companies the richest companies in the world. So the same companies that are selling you that measles drug are now selling, and the hepatitis B and the DTaP and the HIV vaccines. And that vaccine is giving you seizures or epilepsy or autism or food allergies or asthma. That same company is now selling your child who is sick for life the albuterol inhalers, the COVID inhalers, the Adderall, the Ritalin, the Concerta, the anti-seizure medication, the diabetes drugs, the rheumatoid arthritis drugs. These companies are making $50 billion a year selling vaccines, mandatory vaccines. And then they're making $500 billion a year selling the treatments for the chronic diseases that are being caused by those vaccines. So there is not only no incentive for them to make it safe, there's actually an incentive for them to make those vaccines as dangerous as possible. They have monopoly control. There's no competition. Everybody's told, you take this Merck's hepatitis B shot. You take Merck's MMR. There is no other MMR to take.
Let me ask you this. You said your party, just for full disclosure, you're still a Democrat. You haven't left the party.
No, I'm still a Democrat, but I'm really angry about this.
Why the one party that has this wrong is the Democratic Party?
Well, I'm not going to blame it completely on the Democrats because, in fact, the parties have gone back and forth on this issue. And when Reagan signed the law into effect, and I'm not blaming Reagan, because I think Reagan was probably trying to do something good, and the Democrats who voted for it all believe that this law would somehow make it easier for people to recover from injuries quickly, and that they would keep people, from getting sick. They didn't know what I know today about vaccines. So